We've got an outstanding speaker for you today. Before we get to her and her introduction, I want to make you aware or remind you of Opportunity Quest. This is the next business pitch competition. Applications are due on Sunday night. The competition is Tuesday evening. If you personally are not interested, you might know somebody who is. We do something I think that's really cool. Any business that has made $200 in the past 3 months gets a $200 award. We want to encourage hustling at any stage of the business. So if it's not you, please share this with your friends that might have something going on the side. You don't have to have an LLC. It doesn't have to be officially recognized at this stage. We just want to find the hustlers and bring them into our entrepreneurship program, provide you some resources, and connect you with a mentor. So please keep that in mind. Lunch, Raquel?
I have 4 spots available, and they're just first come, first served. So whoever comes and meets me at the Entrepreneurship Center, 115, you'll get this spot. So 4 spots, whoever comes to me first after the speaker series.
Okay, thank you. So, they say you can tell a lot about somebody by the company they keep, and I think that's true. Our guest today brought the chair of the board of trustees here to introduce her, which is pretty remarkable. So I will not be introducing our speaker. Rich Christensen, the chair of the board of trustees and the founder of our entrepreneurship program, is here to introduce Sheila. So, Rich.
Thank you. It's such a privilege to be with you. I think this is my favorite class that I get to attend. Such great energy. And as I was a young student, this was my favorite class in all of college. I came and I listened to this old guy named Larry H. Miller talk in the early part of his career and watch what he did, and it was just fascinating. So I hope that he's really deeply engaged. I'm really louder. It's really my thrill to be here and to introduce my dear friend Sheila Mielcarek, and also welcome Patty Falk here today. They're in from Arizona. Sheila is such a fascinating individual, and oftentimes anyone who's been through really challenging things, it either breaks you or you do just amazing things. And Sheila's background is just so diverse. She is a mechanical engineer by education, completely self-made, spent time in the corporate world at Motorola, in the big corporate world. And how I came to know Sheila is in the thought leadership world. I have a friend and associate named Joe Polish, and she was instrumental in growing his organization, Genius Network, is that
Genius
correct?
Network Mastermind, yeah.
And Sheila is presently running the operations for Stephen Franson, which is one of the largest chiropractic training leadership groups in the country. And I really respected Sheila for that. She's ran in my circle for years. So what you're going to see today is a deeply intellectual individual, someone with pragmatic logic experience, real-world corporate experience, and also working with entrepreneurs. But coupled on top of that, you're going to see a heart the size of Texas. So brains and heart, pretty rare combination. It's really my privilege today to introduce and to have Sheila speak to you.
Thank you so much, Rich. Thank you. Thank you. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be here with you. Thank you so much for coming, Rich. Thank you for the introduction. I've had an incredible day and a half learning about your campus and the programs. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you. Thank you for coming and spending some time with me. By a show of hands, how many of you in here know you want to be an entrepreneur? Show of hands. How many of you already are entrepreneurs? And how many of you are kind of on the fence? You don't really know if this is for you or not, but you're still trying to figure it out. All right, well, I'm hoping that today, by the end of our time together, that you'll get some clarity or you'll decide if this is some value on the journey that you are currently pursuing. So, all right, maybe.
I don't think I pushed buttons for you.
I'm a gifted slide advancer.
All right. I'm not sure where I need to be pointing this thing. Okay, let's go back. There we go. I see, over here. Yep, stay right there. Go back. All right, so today I'll share a little bit about my story. We'll go through the 9 hacks to accelerate your success, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So you're probably wondering why I put this beautiful piece of machinery up on the slides here. It's a 1956 210 hardbody 350 engine with a turbo transmission. And this car was the very reason that I got into engineering school. My father was a journeyman machinist. I used to come home from school. After school, I would go into the garage with him and we would work on this car. And the passion that I learned for like how things worked and taking things apart and putting them back together is what led me into engineering school. And little trivia fact, I still own this car today. So, as Rich alluded, I graduated from Arizona State University. I got a job at General Dynamics, Motorola General Dynamics, in their space and systems group. I'd worked for the company for about 11 years, doing design, project management, program management. I built a military logistics organization. I was in their strategy planning and business development. And about 11 years into this, I felt my entrepreneurial spirit starting to rumble. And I was finding a serious frustration with the bureaucracy of dealing with government programs. So after 11 years, I walked into the office of my boss. I handed him my letter of resignation, and he said, "You're making the biggest mistake of your entire life. You are going to seriously regret this, and you will be back." And I can tell you 17 years later, I have nor regret this or have ever been back. I did, however, allow them to pay for my MBA and my master's in program management, and I took all the knowledge that I gained from there and then moved on. So after I had left, I really was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And first week out of being on my own, I went to a business conference. And I sat down, and this gentleman sits down next to me, and we started having a conversation. I'm a very curious person. I love connecting with people. I love learning about who you are and what you do. And so we had this conversation over the course of the 3 days. He told me he was building a business and he was asking my advice and he was asking me questions. And so at the end of the 3 days, he said, "You know, I'm going to start this company. Would you like to be on my strategic team?" And so I thought, well, this is an interesting proposition. I didn't really know who he was, so I said, let me think about it. I went home, did a little research on the guy, and he happens to be a billionaire, right? So by chance, I'm sitting next to this billionaire guy who just asked me to join his strategic team. And he became the 25th richest man in the world, in the United States. He lost everything, and then he built it back. And 2 years before he passed, he was nominated for a 2014 Nobel Peace Prize for changing the credit industry, was the industry in which he made his money. And so I spent a year with Bill. We helped him build his platform. He went on to have a very successful business. And it was in that experience with Bill when I knew that I wanted to work with high-level entrepreneurs and thought leaders to help them take their vision and turn it into reality. 17 years later, I'm still doing that very thing today. So how many of you ever watched the show Shark Tank? Happens to be one of my favorite shows. I get a full raise of hands, absolutely. That's like one of the best shows, right? There's a great quote by Lori Grainer who says, "Entrepreneurs are the only people who work 80 hours a week only to avoid having to work 40 hours a week." Right? Let that sit for a minute. And I love that because it takes a very special person to be an entrepreneur, right? It takes a very special person who will put the work in to do that. And a lot of people, they see success, but they don't recognize all of the hard work and everything that has to go into becoming successful. You know, the commitment, the persistence, the discipline, sacrifices, the pivots, the stomach to be able to handle rejection, failures, criticism, doubts, those of other people and of your own, your fears and your risks, right? But the rewards of entrepreneurism, taking an idea and turning it into a profitable business. For me, getting to work with like-minded people who are really up to something in the world was so fascinating and thrilling for me. Being my own boss and having some level of autonomy, a flexible schedule. And then when you're really, really successful at doing it, you get to build wealth, not only for yourself, but for your family and for the people whom you employ. This is what I love about entrepreneurship. And the path is different for everyone. Certainly, I had a very unconventional way to get to where I am today. Many people think, oh, it's just you start a business and bam, you're like an overnight success. You do some things and you get to overnight success. And it never happens that way, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on in the middle, and it's messy in the middle, right? But it's inside of that mess is where all the gold lies. Like you fail, you win, you pivot. Coronavirus happens, right? You innovate. And so to get to your level of success and what you define as success, it's never a straight line. And the struggles and the bumps and the burdens and the obstacles along the way are all the opportunities for you to grow, for you to learn, and for you to improve. Because probably the first thing that you start isn't going to be like the thing that you're going to, it's just a stepping stone until your next business that you design. So I was having conversations with Rich and Tyler, and they were talking about this $200 incentive to start something, right? And then that be like a stepping stone for the next thing that you do. Every one of you guys should be, if you're considering entrepreneurship, you should be participating in that and taking the learnings from it, so that as you continue to grow and build your final business or the business or a business, you'll continue to take those learnings. So hack number 1. Create a crystal clear vision for your definition of success. And the key here is your definition of success. Don't let that be someone else's definition of success for you. How many of you use visualization as a practice in your life? Anybody? All right, well, let's do a little quick visualization exercise. I want you to think of something that you want. I want a car, a business, a house, a relationship. I want you to just focus on something that you want. Since I love cars, let's use the car example for a moment. What does the car look like? Is it a 2-door? Is it a 4-door? Is it an SUV? A race car? What color is the car? What's the profile of the tires and the rims? Right? When you go to grab the door handle of the car and you open it up and you look inside, is it a 2-seater, a 4-seater, a 6-seater? When you slide in and to sit down and behind the steering wheel, is it a bucket seat? Do you smell the scent of leather? Is it an automatic or a stick shift? Are you seeing a display pop up in front of you? Who's in the car with you? Where are you going? And how fast do you want to get there? Do you all have your visualization of that? Of what you want? Show of hands. Can you see it? Can you see yourself having that? That same exercise is exactly what you would need to do to build a very vivid vision for your business. Who are you serving? What are the problems that you're solving? What are the outcomes that you're getting? What's the profits that you're making? Who's on your team? What's the business culture? And what does success look like for you? Dr. Stephen Franson and Rich was talking about Dr. Stephen Franson, a brilliant businessman, has a saying that says, clarity is the accelerant to accomplishing all of your goals. It's clarity and focus is the foundation of everything that you do, everything that you build on. And without it, you can't enroll and build a team inside of helping you to accomplish your goals. So clarity is the greatest accelerant. Build your vivid vision for what you want your business to look like. Business hack, or hack number 2. Only believe what empowers you. What I love about entrepreneurs and what I love about working with them is they are idea-creating machines, right? They have a desire to solve problems and create value in the world. But for every idea, there's often someone, parent, spouse, friend, that will tell you how crazy your idea is, how you can never do it, that you won't make it. Like my boss, you're going to completely regret this decision. It'll be the worst decision of your life. Don't allow the fears and doubts of other people squash your passion for what you're trying to accomplish. Get clear. The best thing that you can do is create your vivid vision and get clear on what you want and why you want it. There's a really great book by a gentleman by the name of Cameron Herold. He wrote a book called Vivid Vision. And if you want some help in creating that, it's a great book for you to read. So I believe that God only creates geniuses. Your job is to find your genius, create your vision, and then pursue it with all of your passion. Bill Bartman, I mentioned him earlier, he has a great saying, the main cause of failure is the inability to deal with your own self-doubt. And don't let your doubt squash your dreams. All right, hack number 3. Get comfortable making decisions and taking risks. How many of you have ever been skydiving? Anybody been skydiving? All right, so I went skydiving with a few of my friends. I did it to overcome my extreme fear of heights. And so we go up into, go to this place to go skydiving. We decided to do the tandem jump. It's where you get strapped to the chest of your instructor and you jump out of the plane together. So we go up 13,500 feet. It was a beautiful day, a little cloudy, so we free fell out of the plane through the clouds. It was an amazing and thrilling experience. We free fall about 9,500 feet, at which time the instructor pulls the cord. This is where the chute's supposed to open. And all of a sudden, I'm strapped to his chest, and I'm feeling like this going on, and I look up, and there he is, jiggling the cords on the chute. And now I'm having one of those holy crap moments. Like, oh my God, like I'm pull the reserve chute, like, right? And he's just, rearranging the cords, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, pull the reserve chute, and he's just rearranging, and we're falling, and we're continuing to fall on the ground, approaching very fast. And so finally, he cuts the cords, and he pulls the reserve chute. And he gets us down to safety. And I couldn't have been more happy for that to happen, right? And so after having a conversation with him and a few choice words, I was like, why did you wait so long to pull the chute? Pull the reserve chute. And he said, I clearly understood what the problem was. I mean, we were trying to fix it. And I knew that if I had to about 2,000 feet to safely pull the chute. And if I didn't pull the chute at 2,000 feet, it would automatically open up itself. So here I was. I felt much better about this process. The whole point of this is that there are times in your life when you're having to make decisions. There's going to be uncertainty, and you're going to have to make those decisions in a realm of assessing the risks and then making a decision. In this case, this gentleman knew, he was fully aware of what the risks were. He certainly knew. He had a complete expertise in what he was doing, and he knew the exact time to pull the reserve chute. So indecision and decision paralysis is the enemy of your progress. Consequences are often missed opportunities and loss in confidence when you have the inability to make good decisions. Life and business is just a series of decisions. So consider your risk, decide confidently, and move forward. Hack number 4, build your A+ team. Focus on the who. So when you're bootstrapping your business, creating a lean startup, you're coming out as an entrepreneur wearing a lot of hats, right? And generally when something has to get done, the question you ask yourself is, how do I do this, right? How do I do this? And the better question to ask is, who can help me with this? Right? Building a successful and scalable business requires a team. It requires mentors. It requires your ability to know when you need to let go of some of those reins and to delegate. So your job is to find the right genius who buys into your vision and shares your core values. And when you've got the right people in the right seat, everyone rowing in the right direction, that's when the magic happens. So one of the companies that I own is a company called Cairo Matchmakers. It's a recruitment company. And oftentimes we get asked questions about building teams. And one of the questions that I get asked most frequently is, how do I motivate teams? We have incredible teams, both in the Remarkable Practice, inside of the Cairo Matchmaker organization. And the answer is, you don't. You don't motivate teams. You hire very motivated people who are working in their zone of genius, and you do everything possible not to demotivate them. That's the key to motivating your teams. So hack number 5, the power of connection. You know, starting out, you'll be told as entrepreneurs, go out into networking organizations, start networking and building your network. And I would say the most important thing around creating connection and the power of connection is authentically connecting with people. You know, don't show up to a networking event with an agenda of like, I'm going to have this many sales, I'm going to close this many people, I'm going to get this many numbers. No, show up from a place of curiosity. Show up from a place of wanting to learn about people that you're getting to interact with. Learn their challenges, learn what they do, learn about their families. It'll serve you in building relationships with them, right? Be present, be curious, be a good listener. I built many of my businesses around all coming from the connections that I had inside of my network and the referrals that I get from those people. Be a giver and not a taker. Joe Polish, Rich mentioned Joe Polish. Joe Polish has a saying, life gives to the giver and takes from the taker. Be a giver. Be a giver. Show up with how you can contribute to someone else. And I believe that when you show up providing value, that the value will come back to you. It's not a tit for tat, and it may come from somewhere else. It may not come from the exact person that you provided it to. Make deposits and nurture those relationships. I travel a lot, and I happened to be in an airport, and I picked up an Inc. magazine, and it was an article in there on Ryan Seacrest. And Ryan Seacrest, if you don't know, owns about 14 or 15 different companies. And he was being interviewed on all of his companies, and the interview asked a question, how do you manage keeping track of what's going on in all of these different companies? And he said, oh, I use this amazing tool called 15.5. Well, 15.5 happens to be the company that my very good friend David Hassel owns and started. And David and I were in a business masterminding group together. So I take a picture of the article. I texted to David. I'm like, hey man, congrats, you got this shout out for Ryan Seacrest, good job. And he texted me back right away and he's like, holy crap, I didn't even know that this article existed. Thanks so much. This is going right to my PR department. Hey, how you doing? Good to connect. Let's connect up for a conversation soon. So it's just little things like that you can do to stay connected to people once you understand who they are and what they're about and building value. Another good tactic is sending a note of thanks. Once a week at a minimum, take your time to write one letter, one note of thanks to somebody for their contribution to your life, for what they mean to you. It could be a family member, it could be a business colleague, it could be a student, it could be anyone. But write a note of thanks. Come from a place of gratitude. Jim Rohn has a really great quote, and it says, your network equals your net worth. And I know that to be personally true because, like I had mentioned before, all of my businesses have been built inside of the people that I know, with the partnerships that we've created, and my teams have been built all inside of my network. So your network equals your net worth. Hack number 6, find a great mentor. I heard, Tyler talking about the program that you have here and the ability to like get involved and let them hook you up and, match you to a mentor. The characteristics of a great mentor is they're going to see the potential in you. Sometimes they'll see potential in you that you don't even see in yourself, and they can help encourage you and guide you along the way. They'll be your champion. Find somebody that, if you're looking on your own, find somebody that has some relevant experience, who can lovingly guide you and encourage you. Someone maybe who shares your core values, because I'll tell you, if you get mentored by somebody who doesn't share your core values, it could be a really big problem. They can take you in a direction you may not want to go. And somebody who will definitely, I think the role of a mentor, anyone who steps into that role knows that you're there to contribute, to add value, and to give honest and candid feedback. It's a great opportunity to learn from the successes and failures and experiences of those people, right? And Rich Christensen actually, over I think one of our conversations yesterday, made the comment. He said, the number one predictor of success is having a great mentor. I've had many in different industries and many in different skill sets. So I'd encourage you to get involved and get some mentorship. Hack number 7, prioritize your health. All right, let me ask you a question. Who in here would like to be worth $1 million? All right, who in here would like to be worth $5 million? All right, who in here would like for me to give you $1 million? All right, I'll make a deal with you. Who in here would be willing to lop off a leg for $1 million? You would be. Who in here would be willing to chop off an arm for $1 million? Poke out an eye? No? Well, it's very interesting. I mean, you guys all said you wanted $1 million. I said I'm going to give you $1 million, and all you had to do was chop off an arm or poke out an eye. So clearly, you have some value around your health. You're around your ability to see, your ability to have mobility, your ability to stay and have your body in its peak, manufacturer or factory set performance, right? As an entrepreneur, many times you'll take on and embark endeavors that require working 80 to 90 hours a week, or you'll find yourself in those situations. And I just caution you that a lot of times that comes at a cost. And I can tell you from personal experience, this happened to me, 6 years ago. I had a scenario where I was burning it at both ends. We were starting different companies, things were going on, I was at a lot of demand. And one day, driving out to a consult for a client, I discovered I was allergic to the sun. You heard me right. Allergic to the sun. And I don't think what Rich told you was that I happen to live in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay? And it truly, this is not a joke, truly I could not be out in the sun for more than 5 minutes and I would have severe rash, like as if I was laying in the sun for 10 hours. And it took me 2 years to figure out how to undo that. And it was a wake-up call for me, and it was my body telling me, hey, you got to pay a little more attention to me, right? So sometimes those wake-up calls you can undo them, and sometimes you can't. So make sure that you're taking care of your body. Make sure that you're finding ways to, create good morning and evening rituals, that you're determining what your stress release valve is, right? That you exercise and eat well, and prioritize sleep, which is very important. I took this one for granted. I bought myself an Oura ring. Anybody have an Oura ring? It's a really cool ring. It monitors your sleep, your heart rate, your activity. It's a cool ring to helps me monitor my health. And then I do meditation. I do some breath work. It lowers your heart rate, your anxiety, your stress. Interesting quote from the Dalai Lama, which I think kind of sums up this idea. And he says, "Man sacrifices his health in order to make money, only to then sacrifice his money to recuperate his health." Don't be that person. Hack number 8, be a continuous student. The best investment you can ever make is the investment that you make in your personal development and in your professional development. Learn to master your mindset. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time, and I wish I had more time to go into it, but this is a key. Learn to master your mindset, grow your emotional IQ, the way that you react and respond to things that happen, and what you say about those things that happen will dictate your reality. Success leaves clues, model success. Learn about companies that are successful. Learn from other companies' wins and failures in addition to your own. Learn from your mentors. For me, the area, so I was in engineering, I got my MBA and then I went on, got master's in project management. But an area for me where I wanted to become a student and really study, and I think supported my ability to not only consult but also grow my own businesses, was marketing. Learning how people behave. I took a course called NLP, stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. If you're interested in that, I would take it from a gentleman by the name of Dr. Matt James. Incredible course. But study marketing, learn marketing. Good product, bad marketing, no money, right? You could have the best product in the world, you don't understand marketing, you don't understand how to create a message, you don't understand who your market is, who your avatars are, or what channels to use to get there, you're going to have problems in business. I'd say read a variety of books, and they don't always have to be business books. Change it up a little bit. You're going to find, we got to go to the SUMA Museum yesterday, and I was in a business mastermind course, and in this course, when we would meet, the director would line the walls with art, and he would tell us, go look, go explore, and part of our coursework was just to go and look and explore, and he says, you will find your answers in some of this work. And it was really just stretching your mind. You can get very, left-brained at times, and it's like stretch your mind so you can balance out your brain and help you solve problems. And then listen to podcasts. I personally happen to love Tim Ferriss. I think he's an example of bringing the diversity in both thought and topics, and I love to listen to Tim. He's my podcast of choice. All right. Hack number 9, celebrate. Celebrate your wins and celebrate your failures. You'd be saying, why do I want to celebrate my failures? It was like you get disappointed, you're down on yourself. No. Celebrate your failures, because the only true failure is the ones that you don't take the lessons from. So many times, and I wore this unfortunate badge of honor. I could bounce from achievement to achievement, going from thing to thing to thing, and never really taking the time long enough to celebrate the wins, not for myself and for my team. So take the time to celebrate where you are and what you learned. We've now instituted in multiple of my companies where we have every Monday we call it our 10 meeting. It's part of an EOS, which is Entrepreneurial Operating System. Great book, Traction by Gino Wickman. If you want to learn about EOS, you can read this book. But every Monday, we get together, and as a leadership team, we talk about two things. We talk about a personal win, and we talk about a business win. So we're instilling this every week, focusing on celebrating our wins. Why is this important? It staves off burnout. It builds confidence, and it energizes your team knowing that you're all headed in a great direction. And it lets me too know as a leadership that what are people considering wins in their lives. And so super important to celebrate your wins and celebrate your failures. So we've covered the 9 hacks to accelerate your entrepreneurial success. Create and focus a crystal clear vision for your definition of success. Only believe in what empowers you. Get comfortable making decisions and taking risks. Build A+ teams and focus on the who. Your network equals your net worth, the power of connection. Find a great mentor. Be a continuous student. Make health a priority and celebrate your wins and failures. So for those of you that are on the entrepreneurial journey, and those of you who are considering it, take the leap and enjoy the ride. I'll open up for questions.
Which of the 9 hacks do you think was most influential to you that you had to learn and go that was the biggest impact on your own entrepreneurial growth?
Which of the hacks was the most impactful to me? I would say it would depend on the stage of the business that I was in, right? So if you asked me that, a couple years ago, I would say it would be focusing on my health, because I had been running and gunning and burning it at both ends. And so that was in my scope at that time, like my line of vision, my focus, right? I think if earlier on, it's definitely, getting clear on what it is that you want. When you get clear on what it is that you want, you're going to spend a lifetime chasing it, right? So make sure it's really what you want and you're super clear about it. Making sure that you've got you have the ability to, and the stamina to, only believe what empowers you. It sounds like kind of cliche-ish and very woo-woo, but it's really true. Like, you have to preserve yourself both mentally and physically to be able to continue to work inside of your peak performance. And when you're bogged down by, mental trash from different places, it's like you have to preserve your mental capacity. So I would say maybe earlier on, depending on where you are in your emotional IQ, it might be only believe what empowers you. Get comfortable making decisions. I think that comes with experience. The more decisions you make, the more times you fail, the more times you overcome your fears, it gets easier. And you get a level of confidence associated with that because you're continuing to do it. So again, I think the answer is it depends. It depends on where you are.
How have you been able to make boundaries in a business setting to prioritize your health?
To prioritize my health? That's a good question, and it's not easy, honestly, because I'm one of those people who, the 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks, that was just normal for me. And so it was really setting up structure, and I almost had to calendar it. Okay, I get up at 5 a.m., I journal, I work out, I have my meditation, I do my breath work, that I shower, and I literally calendar all of those things inside of my calendar. Because if I don't, my calendar gets full of other people's needs and priorities and problems, right? So I have to calendar it.
So you've been successful in a number of different industries, and I'm curious how being a continuous student allowed you to be successful. It seems like there's a connection there.
So I'll share a story of maybe how I switched industries. When I was working, let me answer your question. So I do believe that you have to be a continuous student. And I also believe that there are some underlying and fundamental things that about business that apply no matter what industry you're in, right? So inside of that, the fundamentals of business applied regardless of what industry that I was working in. So I was able to easily step in from one into the other. And the second thing that made me successful in those is, unlike maybe other consultants, I didn't show up with an agenda of this is how you do it, this is my process for how you do them. I was very Socratic. So show up being Socratic. It's a great tool to just listen and learn from, when I would have a client, I had a client in the dental industry, which I know you know. And I didn't know anything about dentistry. I'd never worked in dentistry outside of just having my own teeth cleaned. And so I showed up to him and I would ask him questions. What about this? What about that? And I knew some of the pitfalls inside of where people would fall down. So I just started asking questions around those things. And it was actually very, very interesting because after we left that meeting and I had a bunch of notes, he said, you're the first person that I ever hired that didn't show up and tell me how wrong I was and how dumb I was and that I should be doing everything this way. You're the first person who listened to what I had to say and gave me really good advice. And so I would say be a good listener, be Socratic, because you'll learn along the way what works and what doesn't work and where the stumbling blocks are, and you just apply it across multiple industries.
Thank you.
What is your definition of success, and has it changed over the years?
Yeah, it has. So success to me is when I'm working in my realm of genius, which I feel is really helping, bringing value to entrepreneurs who are looking to take their vision from a vision into a reality, right? To realizing their vision. I get my juice from doing that. And to me, I know that when I'm providing value, that money follows value, right? I'd write that down. Money follows value, right? So when I first started out, I think I had some definitions around how much money I wanted to make, and and we still have goals for those things. But my success is like when I'm working in my realm of genius and knowing that I'm providing value. That's when I feel successful.
So,
Go ahead. Okay.
okay. So, with you being so successful, what is one thing that you still struggle with? Like with these 9 hacks, is there something that you still struggle with even to this day?
I would say my biggest struggle truly is the focus on health. It's the one that probably takes the most mental energy, it's not the thing that comes the easiest to me. What comes easy to me is like, if I schedule a workout and I've got some stuff to get done, what's easy for me is go, I just need it, I'll just get a little bit more, I'll just work another hour or 2 to get this stuff done, and then the workout doesn't happen, right? So the one that I work on is just staying focused and keeping true to my calendar.
We've got time for one more question.
I was just going to ask, talked a lot about surrounding yourself with, the A+ team.
Mm-hmm.
What's some attributes or things we can look for to recognize those types of people in our lives?
It's a great question. I happen to own a recruitment company, so my chiropractic recruitment company. So what we do with our clients is we schedule a discovery call. We sit down with them and we'll say, what role are you trying to fill? And we map out what the avatar for that role would look like. What are the qualities that they need to have? What's the culture and the environment that they're going to be working in? I also take into consideration who are they going to be working with. So we have a predictive behavioral analysis tool that we use. And we run every candidate who applies for that job through that analysis. If they don't match the avatar, then we don't hire them. But when they do, we have a 90% chance of them being a really good match. We also will run them through a cognitive exam just to make sure, like depending on the job, just to make sure that if I have to train that person, I need to know that they are sharp enough that they can take that they'll understand the training. So I think to answer your question is, it depends on the role that you're hiring for, and it's different for every role. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
All right, awesome.